So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
So start by telling us about this near-miss accident. What actually happened and how did you learn about it?
So I'm a member of the CEP. On August 3rd, one of the casks that was being lowered held up on a ring 18 feet above the final storage location. And I was told about it at the CEP meeting, the public meeting that occurred a week later. And what happened was the cask normally would be lowered inside what's called a glove. It's basically a glove size. Well, it held up, and it was noted about, a while, a half an hour or so later, while they were doing radiation readings to see if it was normal in the cask, and it wasn't. It was elevated, which is the normal readings that occur during a transition time when it's being lowered.
So, but it could have fallen 18 feet, according to the whistleblower.
That's correct. Yeah, it could have fallen 18 feet. And the analysis was done that it could have fallen more than that and not have a break to the outside barrier.
Okay, so it's an estimated 8 million people live within 50 miles of San Onofre. How dangerous was this? How close did we come to a real catastrophe?
Well, my estimate and that of the Union of Concerned Scientists is that it's not a significant event, that the analysis covered that type of a event that could occur, a fall of 18 feet. The NRC is here this week to do an analysis starting today for a week-long inspection. There are normal inspections and then there are special inspections. This is a special inspection that's occurring to investigate this and to look at the people, procedures, and programs that apply to prevent this from happening.
So we had mentioned that it was a whistleblower that revealed this, and right. Edison does not have a very good safety record. It's near the bottom in terms of its record nationally for operators of nuclear power plants. Do you think that Edison should have revealed this without relying on a whistleblower to tell the public?
The decision that needs to be made is, was it just an industrial issue or did it have more of a concern for nuclear? And in the decision-making process that occurs, and the NRC is reviewing the decision-making process, when then the NRC is notified and then when the public's notified. That will all be part of the investigation, and I can't tell you the specifics of whether it was enough. I do feel that dry cask storage is the safest means of storage in the United States. The National Academy of Sciences recommended that dry cask storage be used for spent nuclear fuel. And when the storage is complete, it will be the safest method possible.
At the community engagement panel of which you're a part, I've heard people ask questions of Edison like, if there were an accident, what are your contingency plans? And we have not heard any satisfactory answers. Is that something you would hope the NRC would get an answer to?
Yeah, the NRC is responsible for all aspects. So one of the aspects that's most important is emergency planning. And the emergency planning is related to the safety case for that type of an incident that occurs. So first they determine what was the issue and what is the safety case that was violated or not violated. And then they determine what the impact is on the immediate first, which is the workers and the people inside the fence. And then we call it the people outside the fence, what is the impact on those? And in fact, the studies that are performed is when we're in full dry cask storage, there is no risk to the public outside of the fence. In all events.
If there were an accident and a cask got damaged, are you confident as a member of the panel that Edison has a plan for what to do in an emergency?
That part of it is still being analyzed, but there is contingency planning. There are procedures in place to take care of that. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is looking at the procedures to make sure that they're sufficient to perform the recovery efforts, as well as the Institute of, or the Electric Power Research Institute. Palo Alto is the organization for research for utilities. They're performing a large number of studies to evaluate this same activity.
I've seen a lot of studies, but I haven't heard any very specific plans of what would be done in the case of an accident.
Okay, in the case of an accident, and you have to define what an accident is. So an accident could be from damage internal to the container to damage external. the analysis that's been performed, that is the basis for the regulations today, are that a drop of 18 feet would not breach the outside barrier of that container. So there's no risk to the public.
We'll leave that question unanswered then. So the bigger issue is what could happen to the nuclear waste, the spent fuel rods, which are being stored on site. And there are a few different options that you have been talking about on the panel. Which do you think is the most likely option, if any, of that waste being moved?
Very good question. The majority of the CEP, or actually it's unanimous, is in favor of moving the fuel and doing everything that we can to help Edison move the fuel to a Department of Energy authorized facility. Now, right now, Yucca Mountain is still in evaluation, even though last week I was at meetings and the NRC budget is being increased to help start the licensing again. But in fact, there's interim storage sites, two of them, one in Texas and one in New Mexico, to address interim storage as a parallel path. And the National Academy also had a study called the Blue Ribbon Commission to make recommendations that both paths should be explored and move forward.
And if the population in those states say, no, we don't want nuclear waste from somewhere else, what do you think about the idea of moving it across the Interstate 5 to the east side, further away from the ocean, on the mesa on Camp Pendleton?
That's an option that's being considered. However, I think in the best interests of a long-term solution, it's better to have an interim storage site that's regulated as a multiple storage sites for plants such as Diablo Canyon or others in Rancho Seco, plants in the California or the western area that could all have centralized storage, centralized security. It's a much better option than a temporary change.
Well, Ted Quinn, thank you so much for coming in.
Okay, thank you.